The girl sleeping was awakened by a crashing sound. She looked toward the wardrobe in confusion. A grotesque girl, covered in decaying flesh, approached. With a sinister gaze, she said they were actually twins. Upon hearing that the other was her biological sister, the elder sister quickly accepted her existence. However, strange events began to occur afterward. While the family of 3 was having dinner, the usually well-behaved sister suddenly stood up and took off her pants. Then she climbed onto the dining table and began to urinate. The parents were shocked at this scene. At this moment, a servant stepped forward to stop the sister from going wild, yet he was pinned to the ground and rubbed vigorously. The mother immediately scolded her daughter to stop, but when she looked at the mirror beside her, under the control of the younger sister, the elder sister cruelly murdered their mother. When the father returned, he could only helplessly watch his wife in a pool of blood, crying. In despair, the younger sister was very pleased with this. She forcefully pried open her sister's mouth. At this moment, the father realized something was wrong and wanted to escape, but his daughter showed a fierce expression. She picked up the knife from the ground and approached her father with a face full of hatred. Why was the younger twin so terrifying? And what hatred did she have towards her parents? Today, let's take a look at this Indonesian horror film. A few kids planned to go to the field to play soccer. As the sun was about to set, most of the kids went home as their parents advised. The remaining 2 wanted to play a little longer, so they continued playing soccer. However, the boy Ian kicked too hard and sent the ball flying into the cornfield. Then the 2 crawled into the cornfield to pick up the ball. But by the time it got dark, they still hadn't found the ball. The 2 were about to head home when suddenly they heard a voice calling their names ahead. Ian was the first to run toward the sound. He saw a girl holding their ball in her hands, and she immediately took off running. Angry, Ian quickened his pace to chase after her. By the time his companion Jack arrived, the grass field was already in disarray. Jack saw that Ian was already dead. Terrified, he screamed loudly and ran back to the village with all his might. Soon, the villagers arrived at the scene with torches, but under the tree, there was only a shocking pool of blood. At this moment, someone said there seemed to be something in the nearby river, so everyone hurried over to check it out. When they reached the riverbank, they found Ian's gruesome body. The next day, the police concluded that Jack was responsible for Ian's death. They intended to take him back to the police station. Jack cried out that a terrifying girl had appeared last night and that she was the one who killed Ian. However, the police insisted that all the children had gone home last night, and there was no girl at all. At this moment, a man named John stood up. He expressed his belief in Jack's words because the son of the evil spirit, Samala, was still alive. The story takes us back 29 years. Dana, the wife of royal descendant Anto, returned home from the market. She saw her husband's uncle causing trouble again at their home. The uncle urged Anto to sign the agreement quickly. He also said that if something were to happen to him one day, and there were no heirs, the family fortune would fall into the hands of outsiders. Anto was very angry upon hearing this. At this moment, Dana came over to serve them tea. After Dana left, the uncle mocked, saying that if he had such a beautiful wife, after 11 years of marriage, he would definitely have children. Unbeknownst to him, Dana, who was hiding in the shadows, overheard everything. In the noon, Dana gave her husband a massage. Anto asked her where she had gone that morning. Dana replied that she went to buy fertility medicine. She also firmly promised that if given a little more time, she would definitely bear an heir. However, Anto had already lost patience. He told his wife that if her belly showed no signs after a few months, he would marry another woman who could bear children. Upon hearing this, she ran outside and cried helplessly. Suddenly, someone nearby said that his wife could not bear children, but it was said that Grandma Leah had a way she could help anyone conceive a child. With renewed hope, Dana immediately headed to Grandma Leah's house. After a long journey, she finally met Grandma Leah as she wished. Grandma Leah didn't hold back and told her that although she could help her fulfill her wish, it would all involve dark magic, because her master was a devil. Although Dana felt scared upon hearing this, she still said that it didn't matter even if it was a devil, as long as she could conceive a child quickly. At this moment, Grandma Leah stated the conditions. She said that Dana would end up having twins. One would be a beautiful and kind human, and the other would be an evil devil. Dana and her husband would have to care for them diligently and raise them until they were 15. When the time came, the devil would take the evil child away. In fact, it was like raising a little devil for the devil, and Dana would get a human child. Then Grandma Leah emphasized again that they must carefully take care of both children until they were 15, or the consequences would be unimaginable. In the end, Dana agreed. Then, Grandma Leah asked her master for help. After casting the spell, Dana began to convulse uncontrollably, and her belly began to swell strangely. After it was done, Grandma Leah said that in less than 2 months, Dana would be able to conceive as she wished. 2 months later, the doctor examined Dana and found that she was indeed pregnant with twins. Anto was overjoyed to hear this news. He quickly named his 2 daughters, Kamara and Samala, respectively. Now, Anto could finally hold his head high. He hurriedly called the servants to tell all the villagers that he was finally going to have an heir. Time passed quickly, and before long, it was the day Dana was to give birth. In pain, Dana glanced at the living room during labor, but in the blink of an eye, the devil had disappeared. After a while, both children were born, but when Anto saw that the younger sister, Samala, was a deformity, he turned pale with fear. He immediately ran to fetch the royal sword. Weak Dana asked him what he was going to do. Anto picked up the child. Dana kept saying it was not right, but it was too late. At this moment, Anto found a servant and ordered him to tell everyone in the village that his heir, Kamara, had been born. 3 years later, the uncle came again with people to cause trouble at their home because 3-year-old Kamara still couldn't speak. It was obvious that she was a defective child. At this moment, Dana overheard their conversation. She knew this was her husband's retribution for killing the other child, but it was too late to say anything now. A few years later, the grown-up Kamara became very rebellious. She wouldn't listen to anything her mother said. She even engaged in dangerous behavior. Dana hurriedly stepped in to stop her. Afterward, Dana took her daughter back to the room. However, Kamara kept smashing things, acting as if she had gone mad. Anto witnessed all of this. He ordered the servants to take her away and lock her up. Dana rushed over to plead for her, but her husband said their daughter had gone insane. Thus, Kamara was locked away for several years. One day, a servant urgently found Anto and Dana and said they had searched everywhere in the house but hadn't found any sign of Kamara. Meanwhile, Kamara was looking enviously at the children of the same age playing. At this moment, a boy told his friends that his father managed Anto's garden and had said that Kamara was a madwoman. Upon hearing this, the boy came up with a plan. He used fruit to lure Kamara toward him. Afterward, everyone laughed while throwing stones at Kamara, seeing people bullying his daughter. Anto not only didn't step in to defend her but felt that she was embarrassing. He angrily took her back to the storage room. The maid, Helen, pleaded with Anto not to treat Kamara this way, but he didn't listen at all. He even took out the family rules to punish Kamara. The daughter helplessly begged her mother to save her. However, Dana dared not disobey her husband's orders. Afterward, Helen applied medicine to Kamara and took out a cloth doll to give her as a birthday gift. Then she held her in her arms, feeling heartbroken for her. At night, Kamara was getting ready to sleep when suddenly, the nearby cabinet opened eerily on its own. She saw a figure wearing the same dress as hers. Fearfully, Kamara asked her who she was. The girl said she was Samala. She also said that they were twins. Kamara shook her head in confusion. Samala became instantly furious upon hearing this. She shouted that they not only suffocated her in the cradle but also didn't acknowledge her existence at all, just because she looked ugly. Kamara trembled in fear and began to cry. The other girl even stroked her, telling her not to be afraid. After all, they were sisters. Since Kamara had never had friends, she quickly accepted her sister's existence. Then, the two happily embraced each other. Samala said that from this moment on,
mulai saiki, siang malam, anak bedoyo.
The next night, Helen was teaching Kamara to play the piano. Anto, who was working, was irritated by the noise. He rushed over to scold his daughter and warned Dana to keep an eye on Kamara. Unbeknownst to him, it was nighttime now. At this point, Kamara had changed. She angrily went to her father's study. Her previously defective hand suddenly became normal. Unexpectedly, Kamara stabbed Anto. Her mother hurriedly pulled her daughter aside and questioned her about what she was doing. The next day, to take revenge for being stabbed last night, Anto punished his daughter cruelly. Kamara looked aggrieved and sought help from her mother, but she was scolded for hurting her father. After saying this, she turned away coldly. That evening, the family of 3 sat at the dinner table. Suddenly, Kamara's hand returned to normal once more. She took off her pants, then behaved in an uncivilized manner at the dining table. The servant came over to tell her to get down, but Kamara launched an attack unexpectedly. At this moment, Dana stepped forward and ordered her daughter to stop. But when she glanced at the mirror beside her, Kamara, after provocatively confronting her father, stormed out without looking back. Dana and Helen immediately went out to search for her, only to find Kamara frantically devouring a live chicken. The next day, Helen asked Kamara why she had confronted her father last night. Kamara replied that it wasn't her intention, but that Samala wanted her to do so. Hearing that name, Dana felt a wave of panic, then she ran out in pain. Helen noticed that Dana was in a bad state and asked her son John to help watch Kamara. Then she followed Dana to the riverbank. Dana anxiously told the boatman that she wanted to see Grandma Leah. However, the boatman said that Grandma Leah had died last month. Upon hearing this, Dana stood there in a daze, unsure of what to do. At this moment, Helen came over to ask what had happened. Dana helplessly recounted the events, because Anto was now afraid that Kamara would kill someone at night. He had the servants lock her in the storage room every night. Helen felt heartbroken for Kamara and pleaded for her, but was refused. Feeling helpless, Helen ran to the storage room to comfort Kamara. She expressed that she didn't care who Kamara was and that she would always love her no matter what. The next day, Kamara was playing with toys at home when suddenly the children outside called for her to come down and play ball. Naively, Kamara excitedly ran downstairs, only to have mud splattered all over her face. Helen picked up a broom and chased the children away. Then she hurriedly went over and tightly embraced Kamara. At this moment, Kamara looked ahead and realized that her father was glaring at her fiercely. A surge of hatred quickly spread in Kamara's heart. At night, the couple was having dinner. They heard the sound of something being smashed in the storage room. Dana looked outside with a worried expression. However, her husband didn't care about it. He thought it was just their daughter going crazy again. On the other side, Kamara broke free from her restraints and escaped from the storage room and found a sharp curved knife outside. Soon, a man arrived nearby. He heard strange noises coming from the bushes ahead and splashed a bucket of water into the bushes. Kamara walked out with a smile. The man was terrified and ran away desperately, but he was immediately caught. The man's back was split open in half and then he was stabbed in the head. Not long after, 2 more people were forced out. They were complaining about why they had to come out in the middle of the night. Suddenly, a drop of thick blood fell on their faces. They raised their heads in panic, and Kamara fiercely threw a stone, killing one of them. Then she flashed behind the other person and stabbed wildly. The villagers gathered together to search for the missing people. However, they found nothing after 3 days of searching. Therefore, everyone decided to expand the search area, and the whole village remained on alert. After sunset, children were required to return home and hide, while the adults were gathered for a meeting. A few boys in the village were anxiously huddled together. After all, 2 of their friends were missing, and they were afraid that they would be next. Just after this was said, Kamara pushed open the door with a grass ball in her hand. She displayed a strange smile while staring at them. The bewildered boys recognized her and even mocked Kamara. Finally, they were killed by Kamara. The next day, the villagers entered the forest to search everywhere. To their surprise, they found a body covered in knife wounds. Next to it was a blood-stained cloth doll. On the other side, Helen came to fetch water near the storage room. When she saw the disgusting bloodied water, a sense of dread quickly arose within her. Afterward, everyone pulled the body from the well. Anto immediately went forward to check the situation. Unexpectedly, a servant rushed over in a panic, saying that several more bodies had been found. Everyone immediately followed him, and they saw that the killer had skewered the victims' heads like candied hawthorns. Panic spread among them, and anger instantly filled their hearts. Then the crowd angrily went to confront Anto, shouting that they had found Kamara's toy next to the bodies, so she must be the murderer. But Anto, after all, was the leader of the village. He said that he would investigate thoroughly, then dismissed everyone. Dana seemed to realize that everything was done by her daughter. She couldn't help but tremble all over. Anto comforted her, saying that Kamara was still locked in the storage room. The 2 then set off for the storage room. However, upon arriving, they were completely stunned because there was a large hole in the wall of the storage room. At this point, Dana could no longer hide the matter of Samala. She said that she often saw the murdered child at night and that it was Samala controlling Kamara's actions. Thinking that everything now was because of her husband's cruelty, she helplessly beat on him to vent her frustration. Anto found his daughter and asked if she had killed those people. Kamara replied that it was all Samala's doing. She wanted to kill everyone who bullied the 2 sisters. Upon hearing this, Anto immediately called for a servant and instructed him to take Kamara back to the storage room to restrict her movements. Later, the servant came to bring her food. Unexpectedly, Kamara provocatively picked up a cockroach nearby and began to taste it. At this moment, Helen realized that the village was about to change drastically, so she immediately packed her things to leave with her son, John. Meanwhile, Anto found the wizard. The wizard revealed the deal between Dana and the devil and said that on Kamara's 15th birthday,
ia akan sepenuhnya dikuasai oleh Sumala.
Anto asked if there was any way to save Kamara. After hearing this, the wizard replied that they needed to expel Samala from Kamara's body, but if they couldn't bring her for the exorcism, they would have to pierce her heart with a sword to completely kill the devil. On the other side, the sleeping servant heard crying sounds coming from outside. He immediately went outside to see what was happening. To his surprise, he saw Kamara had somehow escaped. Before he could react, she lunged at him and knocked him to the ground. Then she prepared to kill him with a knife. Fortunately, the servant reacted quickly, fled into the house, and locked the door behind him. He prayed that she wouldn't catch up to him. At this moment, The servant was extremely frightened. Unexpectedly, Kamara stabbed through the door. Seeing the knife pierce through the door almost cost him his life. The servant stumbled and fell to the ground. But Kamara's attack didn't stop. Each stab struck at the servant's inner defenses until she had made a hole in the door. Once Kamara successfully opened the door, the two engaged in another chase. However, Kamara threw a knife and successfully hit him. Then she approached the servant from behind, not even giving him a chance to say a final word, and slashed his throat, completing the kill. Afterward, Kamara went to the living room to play the piano. Dana, awakened by the noise, walked up in confusion. She asked her daughter what was wrong. However, upon seeing her, Kamara picked up the knife and approached threateningly. Dana sensed that the situation was bad. She immediately ran back to her room to block the door with a table, but breaking down doors was a piece of cake for Kamara. After she made a hole in the door, Kamara revealed a sinister smile once more and taunted that her mother was the devil's wife, then charged into the room and launched her attack. Dana tried to resist with whatever she could find, but she quickly fell to defeat. Samala sought revenge for her mother, ignoring her father's murder of her, and for not properly raising Kamara afterward. Thus, she tormented her mother to the point of unbearable pain. After stabbing her mother multiple times, Kamara felt that she had had enough fun. Only then did she end her mother's life. When Anto returned, he found his wife lying in a pool of blood. He cried out in despair that it was all his fault. He shouldn't have impulsively killed his ugly daughter, but now the mistake had been made. He couldn't allow Kamara to continue killing. At this moment, Samala appeared, and Anto saw his grown daughter for the first time. He hurriedly drew the sword given to him by the wizard. This action enraged Samala. She angrily pried open her sister's mouth. Soon, Samala took over her sister's body. She let out a terrifying roar at her father. Then Samala picked up a knife from the ground, then immediately knocked him down. Anto struggled desperately, but he tripped and fell down the stairs while trying to escape. However, his will to survive was strong. Anto dragged his broken leg and called all the villagers out. The villagers, armed with weapons, searched for Sumala's figure. They were ready to take revenge for the dead child. However, Samala was more interested in playing with her father. She lured him into the cornfield and waited for the right moment to attack. Unexpectedly, Anto suddenly erupted and counterattacked. Just as he was about to use the sword to kill his daughter, he hesitated and struggled internally for a long time. Finally, he wrapped his daughter up to take her to the wizard for an exorcism. Suddenly, the tide sack felt very strange. Anto checked it with confusion, only to find it was already empty inside. He realized that something was wrong and prepared to flee, but was stabbed in the leg by Samala. Then the two engaged in a struggle once again. However, Anto won again. This time, he was determined. Anto picked up the sword and pierced the devil's heart. Just when he thought everything had finally come to an end, Samala calmly pulled out the knife from her body and said that since she had taken her sister's body, the heart had moved to the other side. Then she approached her father with the knife in hand. Anto's intestines were scattered everywhere as he quickly died in pain. The next day, the villagers had worked all night and found nothing. Suddenly, someone shouted that there was something in the cornfield. When they saw Anto with his eyes gouged out and his intestines removed, they were all too terrified to speak. At this moment, someone said that the wizard was also dead. Everyone immediately ran to check and found that he had been stabbed in the throat with a sword. Afterward, everyone made a grave for Anto and his wife and reminded each other never to go out at night. But some still thought all of this was nonsense. A man heard strange noises in the middle of the night and went outside. The film ends here. The lead actress played two roles, and they were two completely different characters. She portrayed the innocent naivety of the disabled sister and the bloodthirsty madness of the psychotic sister perfectly. Every look and action of the disabled sister revealed a pure curiosity and innocence about the world, which made people feel sympathy for her. The psychotic sister was entirely a devil that crawled out of hell. Her frenzied behavior and bloodthirsty gaze depicted the image of the devil vividly. It sent chills down the audience's spines. This strong contrast in characters showcased the lead actress's outstanding acting skills and added much to the film. The plot of the film was complete, and there were many bloody, thrilling scenes. There were multiple instances of using a knife to chop through doors and revealing a chilling smile through the holes. It was clearly inspired by classic scenes from The Shining, but unfortunately, the film did not innovate upon this foundation. It merely replicated classic scenes without adding any unique creativity or adaptations, which made it feel too cliched, and it failed to provide the audience with a fresh horror experience. There are significant shortcomings in the control of the narrative pace. The initial setup is too lengthy, and the depiction of the protagonist family's daily discord takes up too much space, without effectively linking to the malevolent spirit's storyline. As the climax approaches, especially when the secrets of Samala begin to surface, the narrative pace suddenly accelerates. Plot points that should have been explored in depth are rushed through. In terms of narrative logic, there are many aspects that are questionable. Dana's actions as a character are very puzzling. She clearly knows all the details, and Grandma Leah has also warned her seriously, yet she chooses to keep quiet about it. This behavior leads her husband to impulsively kill Samala, and the reason is that Samala's existence would embarrass him. Even more difficult to understand is that this secret was hidden for many years. Only when she sensed something was wrong did she think to ask if there was a way to save the situation. It's simply ridiculous. The character portrayal of Anto and his wife in the film is also very poor. They exhibit no qualities of responsible parents. Their treatment of their daughters is chilling. They easily allowed one daughter to lose her life and despised the other daughter for her disabilities, thinking she was an embarrassment. They never provided the care and understanding that the disabled daughter deserved. They locked her up without clarifying the facts and resorted to physical punishment at the slightest disagreement. The mother character is portrayed as extremely weak. She sees Samala multiple times but chooses to pretend nothing is wrong. She never stands up to protect her children, and her inaction ultimately leads to several tragedies, resulting in her own torture and death. Helen's escape with her son is even more casual. I thought she was going to find a powerful ally, but it turned out to be just a simple escape. This left many expectant viewers feeling very disappointed. If you enjoy my channel, please subscribe to it. Your support is the greatest encouragement for me.